We sat here together at the end of Morning Joe, pouring through the whistleblower complaint. We've now sat through 3 hours and 22 minutes of testimony from the country's acting DNI on the job for 42 days. Senior former intelligence official telling me moments ago that Congress has the roadmap. They have what they need in that complaint.
Yeah, I thought that there was way too much focus on process in this hearing and not enough on substance. I understand that there are constraints about what this witness was going to testify to, but I do think they got bogged down in, you know, why didn't he give it to Congress? And, you know, well, Congress has it now. And it is an unbelievable Inspector General report. Unbelievable. And I don't think the public watching this got the full impact of what's in that report. Maybe
the whistleblower complaint. We don't have the full IG report yet, right?
Well, we have the IG's letter and his conclusions. And we know, of course, he is an experienced prosecutor, and his letter and the appendix that he provided with that letter is what really is the IG report in this instance. I think the most important thing that the witness said, and I wish they would have asked him to repeat it, because repetition is a good friend of informing the public. When the witness said, "I think the whistleblower did the right thing." Yeah. That was a really important quote by the acting director of DNI, and I thought, and that the whistleblower and the IG acted in good faith and followed the law.
I wrote down the same thing. I believe that the whistleblower followed the law. The whistleblower is doing what he believes to be the right thing. Verifying that this whistleblower is somebody that he, as the acting DNI, a Trump appointee, is someone credible, and standing by his IG as well. His IG also a Trump appointee who's been before this committee in a closed session.
That was a very important statement for the DNI to make, especially in the wake of the attacks that have already come on the whistleblower from the president and from Republicans on the Hill, and which we can be sure are only going to escalate. I think this hearing, to some extent, was a little bit overtaken by events. Let's remember why Adam Schiff scheduled this hearing in the first place. It's because the DNI would not transmit the whistleblower's report. He scheduled this hearing last week as a way to pressure him into doing so, and that pressure worked. We saw the whistleblower report today. And so I think most of the news from today was the bombshell allegations in that whistleblower complaint. However, there was a little bit of news in this hearing that the DNI made at the beginning, and that is the first entity he went to outside of his own office to decide what to do with this complaint was the White House. Why is that significant? Because what we saw in this whistleblower complaint is an allegation not just about underlying misconduct by the White House, by the president himself, but that the White House was trying to cover this up from the beginning. We now know when the DNI, and I think the DNI was acting in good faith. He didn't know what to do with this. It did raise questions of executive privilege. He went to the White House. He went to people that were acting in bad faith, people who had already tried to cover up the president's misconduct, and who then extended that cover-up by blocking this complaint from being sent to Congress until Adam Schiff made it public 2 weeks ago and started this escalating series of pressure tactics that ultimately led to it being made public this morning.
And Mike, you and your colleagues have written in the last couple days on sort of how this logjam broke, how this whistleblower complaint made its way first yesterday to the Intel committees and then this morning to the public. Let me read a little bit from that report. This is what the whistleblower alleges, allegations that have been deemed urgent and credible by the intelligence community Inspector General. Whistleblower writes in his complaint, in the days following the phone call, that's the phone call between Donald Trump and the Ukrainian president, I learned from multiple U.S. officials that senior White House officials had intervened to lock down all records of the phone call, especially the official word-for-word transcript of the call that was produced, as is customary by the White House sit room. One White House official described this act as an abuse of the electronic system because the call did not contain anything remotely sensitive from a national security perspective.
This reminded me of the nut job meeting that the president had with the Russians in the Oval Office. That was an example of where Trump, right after firing Comey, basically said that doing so had relieved great pressure on him. And that leaked out, and that was very damaging to the president. And what we see in this complaint is that there are apparently other conversations like that that the president has had that are so potentially embarrassing or problematic that they have been sort of stored away elsewhere. And it only raises the question, what is in those transcripts and in those documents? What is it that the president said? What leaders are they with? Is it just regular calls with allies? Is it calls with Vladimir Putin? It just heightens the issue of what is tucked away in this compartmentalized, highly classified channel inside the White House.
It also obliterates the notion that what the White House released yesterday was anything that deserves to be even misdescribed as a transcript. They took what actually happened on that call and hid it away with secrets that are protected by almost human intelligence kind of protocols, it would seem.
That's right, Nicole. And so when you look at the DNI, it kept emphasizing it has to be urgent concern and an intelligence activity. This is intelligence activity. When you start moving things that are maybe sensitive or personal to the president into the intelligence system, any way you look at it, those people fall under the DNI. Those are detailees to the White House and other parts of the government that operate those systems, and they will become concerned because they don't know where that line is. And I think that's where Representative Quigley really started to come in and ask good questions. What is Mr. Giuliani's role? He's meeting with, according to the allegations, I would have followed up and said, was he meeting with the head of a security service of a foreign nation? Was that business on behalf of the United States government? I thought it was interesting how the DNI said, I don't really know what his role is. I don't know what his position is. I don't know what he's doing, which then supports a lot of the allegations should they come out and be investigated about what's really going on and who is in charge of this government. What is intelligence activity? What is the role of these people? It has to be highly confusing for people inside the government.
It's a good point. This is a very fast-moving story, Ben Rhodes, and Matt Miller made a great point that this hearing was scheduled before we knew that some of this logjam would break, that we would all be in possession of this extraordinary document, an unclassified version of the whistleblower complaint that makes allegations that certainly suggest that more than just the president was involved in misconduct, that there was an elaborate effort underway, and that at least in this whistleblower's view, to cover up what was perceived to be Donald Trump's effort to meddle in an upcoming presidential election.
Yeah, Nicole, I mean, it really is an extraordinary amount of information that we've learned today. You know, we've learned that Donald Trump withheld badly needed assistance, U.S. taxpayer dollars, for Ukraine to leverage them to investigate its political opponents. We've learned that he leveraged potential diplomatic engagements with the Ukrainian government.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.